Hello my friends and welcome back. We have another flower letter. This is flower letter number 5, and like I told you guys, I am really enjoying this one. Lots of adventure. There is train robberies. We already have murder. In the last letter, Lily Clara did not marry Mr. Gambit, which I am very thankful for. He turned out to be a douchebag, guys. But I am liking Mr. Hickman, and I kind of hope that him and her hit it off, I hope. So let's find out what is going to be in this letter. Okay guys, so it looks like we have perhaps a little maybe sticker or something. That's what it looks like to me. Maybe you can decorate your cup or a notebook or whatever with it, so that's pretty cool. Looks like we have another business card. Here is the business card. I'll get it up close for you guys. It looks like a jewelry business card. And the back of it, if you guys want to pause it and maybe read it. Some of them are actually kind of catchy, so they are kind of worth reading. They have like little funny things on them. I usually read them like up close, like afterwards. But they do have like a little funny thing on them. Let's see, it looks like we have, this says attention read last, so I'm going to save that. This is probably an extra, we're going to save that. It looks like we have 2 letters. I don't know which one to read first. I guess we'll read the one that was on top first. I don't know if it matters, really. This looks like it says Bill Pinkerton from the Pinkerton Detective Agency, Chicago, Illinois. So let's read this one and see what it has to say first off. April 28th, 1884. Bill. Well, old friend, you promised this last case would be interesting, and it has been. Although not the way you think it meant, I made it to Frisco in record time, as we planned, but unfortunately, the stars hoodwinked me. They're clever. There's no denying it. They were right under my nose for several hours before I even knew it. You and I both know how hard it is to pull something like that off. But I gotta tell you, there's a little girl here in Frisco that's got me all sorts of distracted. She's turned my noggin and gotten under my hide in a way I never thought a woman could. I know you thought I had these kind of feelings for Lizzie, and for a little while I may have had some, but Bill, as much as I regarded her as a fellow agent and cared about her as my colleague, she never had any real power over me, not like this little lady I met in Chicago. Her name is Miss Lily Clara Moore, by the way. She grew up in New York City in the Mott Haven neighborhood. If she isn't the spunkiest cult of a girl I've ever met, then you can spit in my eye the next time we meet. The first time I saw her, she was trying and succeeding to claw herself free from that Melmsy-nosed thug, McDonald's. Seems there'd been a misunderstanding between McDonald and Miss Moore's escort regarding gambling debts. They came to collect before the escort kid gave them the slip, and Miss Moore got in the crossfire. I'll tell you, when I saw her there, all flaming hair and eyes full of blue sparks, I knew I'd never seen anything so pretty in all my life. Fortunately for me, she lost her escort in the skirmish. Now, with her being a lady and all, I couldn't just let her travel through the wilds alone, could I? Of course I couldn't. So I just went and offered myself an escort. I don't mind telling you the next few days were the most pleasant I've ever had. She's the most adorable Spitfire I've ever laid eyes on. And she's smart and untarnished, despite the hard hand life has dealt her. She's an orphan. She and her only living relative, a sister, is real sick. Apparently she caught a rough case of pneumonia this past winter, and being in a asthmatic way, it nearly killed her. The doctor told Miss Moore if she didn't get her sister out of New York's putrid factory air before next winter, she might not survive. When I met her, Miss Moore was on her way to Frisco to marry a man she'd only exchanged a few letters with in response to one of them personal advertisements. She thought by marrying a man with a lot of money, she'd be able to get her sister out of New York sooner than if she saved up her pennies and dimes from sewing her dainty fingers to the bone. Turns out the man she was set to marry is none other than Sylvester Gambit. And wouldn't you know, the old varmint shot himself in the foot when he and a posse tried to rob our train just outside of Frisco. Quite the coincidence, if you ask me. Perfect case of nerves. I'm still an authorized ranger, and I would have gone after him had I not been hot on the Stars trail. But there's the rebel friend. I had only just discovered Miss Moore was on her way to Frisco to be married before it all went down, and I had no idea she was set to marry Gambit. I would have warned her no matter how self-interested it might have come across. Thankfully, Miss Moore made the connection when she was about to tie the knot. Noticed the scar Lizzie gave Gambit right before we recruited her to the agency. Do you remember that night? She bit him so hard he had to have his old sidekick sew up the wound. Anyway, one look at that scar on his wrist and Miss Moore left him standing right there in front of the preacher. Didn't even give him a backwards glance. But who do you think our little Spitfire ran into next? The Bright sisters, all three of them, and guess what they did the moment they discovered I was the only acquaintance Miss Moore had to turn to in her hour of need. They strolled her right up to my hotel, dropped her off, and hightailed it out of town before anyone was the wiser. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't thanking my lucky stars regardless. The idea of Miss Moore wandering the streets of Frisco at night and in such a vulnerable state still makes me awfully thankful she thought to come to find me after discovering the truth about her intended. Never mind the fact that it was awful well for my prospects with her. Blages, the moment I saw her standing in the door of my hotel, looking like a dream, all draped in yards of vanilla silk and lace veil as fine as spun sugar, I swear it took me a full minute to gather my trap up off the floor to come to her aid before another heathen in this godforsaken place stepped in to do her harm. Once I had her settled down in front of a hot drink and a meal, she told me the whole story, from seeing Gambit's matrimonial ad in the paper to her sister's illness to how she discovered the true character of the scoundrel she was about to marry. When I asked what put it in her mind to respond to the likes of a matrimonial and in a newspaper, she said her sister's doctor, a Dr. Matthias Frisbee, gave her the ad and said the arid climate of Frisco might be the answer. Since Gambit's ad claimed to hold no prejudice with the Irish, the doc suggested she might venture. It was clear as crystal that domestic bliss didn't matter much to Miss Moore. Not like saving her sister, anyway. It's mighty admirable, yet my gut tells me this fiery little female would have woken up one day to find she wanted much more from a husband than Gambit could offer. Honestly, Bill, the thought of her shackled to that low life turns my stomach something awful. In the meantime, Miss Moore puts me in mind of that good life we've been yammering on about for years. She makes me feel hopeful that there's still some of it left for me to get. It's the best I've felt in an awful long time, Bill, truly. Yours, Matthew Hickman. P.S. I have had a hunch as to where the stars are heading. I'll buy a horse and supplies and head south. Forward any mail or wires to Pingooch Station. Okay, so down here it says to learn more about the history of Frisco, Utah, you can go to the flowerletter.com page and they have like an extended learning thing. You could just click it and go on there. Okay guys, so that was Matthew's letter, and I have to say I'm really glad that he actually likes her. I'm hoping that it's going to hit off. That is like what I'm really hoping in this letter, that it's going to hit off with both of them. He sounds like a really smart guy, and I really like him. He's so dreamy. So let's see what this letter is from. This is a different letter, I think. It looks a bit smaller, I guess. This is a weird letter. It says 1 of 6. There's a map on the back of it. So I'm not sure. It looks like Frisco, and then it's traveling all the way up here. It says to create your own large map of Agent Hickman's adventures. Line up the Sego Lily icons with future maps. Okay, so this is going to be one of 6. So the front of it here, it says April 15th through the 28th, 1884. Been traveling in the company of a Miss Lily Claremore since Chicago. Not sure I've laughed so much in all my life. The way she puts together sentences and her struggle to try and be proper and fashionable despite her childhood enthusiasm for traveling on the western terrain is, well, refreshing and adorable, if I'm being honest. Can't say I've ever enjoyed another human being's company so well. Wonder what on earth she's doing traveling out west with one of Gambit's horn regulars. The old scoundrel got himself held up by MacDonald's men. The more I get to know Miss Moore, the more thankful I am I was there to help her out for that risky business. Well, I'm not surprised, but I'm definitely a whole lot more disappointed than I thought I'd be. Turns out Miss Moore is heading to Frisco to get herself hitched. Lucky fella. Then down here, it looks like perhaps maybe these were different, maybe little telegrams, I'm thinking. I guess he must have been writing about Miss Moore. So at the bottom it says, she's more bricky than any female I've ever met. Even Lizzie, and that's saying something. Miss Lily Claremore, where do I begin? She's smart, beautiful, talented, brave. Heck, she's stood up to MacDonald's men, and she's faced down a posse of train robbers. The first thing she saw after settling foot in Frisco was a lynching, of all things. And then she discovered her intended is the leader of the train robbers. Does anything ruffle the feathers of the Fury Phoenix? She's even went and made friends with the Bright Stars while she was tracking me down after Gambit blew his big chance with her. Mama would love her, I think, and I'll try my own luck with the lady. So, okay, so that's pretty cool. And I like the picture here. It's just different kind of various things that I really like. So, let's see. Okay, so this says read last. So, which way? The Silver Spur Hotel, April 28th, 1884. Dear Miss Moore, I send my deepest regards for leaving you without a proper goodbye. Duty calls, as they say. I feel very fortunate to have made the acquaintance of the Miss Moore. However, I believe you'll be well here in Frisco, and I wish you all the luck in the world. I am writing to inform you that a friend of mine, a Miss Lottie Strickland, will be calling on you this afternoon at 2 p.m. I hope you'll forgive me for the intrusion, but I showed her your fine handiwork on that pretty wedding dress of yours. Don't worry, I paid Sally the maid to nick it from your room while you were sleeping. Miss Lottie assured me she'd return it to you on her visit. She's in dire need of a dressmaker such as yourself, and I believe she is coming to offer you employment of that nature. Hopefully the work suits you and will tide you over until you can get that dress shop you mentioned up and running. I've had a mighty fine time getting to know you so far, Miss Moore. I'd like to get to know you a mite better, if you don't mind, writing to me while I'm out trekking. I promise to write back so often as I come across the post office. If this sits all right with you, please send your letter to Agent Matthew Hickman, Pankwitch Post Office, Pankwitch, Utah Territory. I'll be on the move regularly, but that's where I'm going next, and I'll send you any new directions when I write to you in return. I hope to hear from you real soon, Miss Moore. Take care of yourself. Yours truly, Matthew Hickman. P.S. I picked up this map of the territory over at the Mercantile this morning.